Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Yes You Pod.
The podcast where we put you back in community. I'm Emily.
And I'm Evie. And this is our eighth episode of the Yes You Podcast.
Oh my god, we've made it. Oh, this is so crazy. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. We say that every week, but I still can't believe it. I can't believe we made it past the first one. So, you know what?
Honestly, it's been so amazing. And
Yeah.
it's a new record. Every episode is
I
just, we keep on
know.
going.
Come
And
on. That's so
I love
good.
it so much. I like looking back and be like, wow, we did number one, two, three, four, five.
Yes. So good.
Oh my goodness.
Um,
But
but
Emily, how's your week? How are you? How are you feeling?
oh my gosh. My week has been good. Really good. I cannot complain. Um I've been so girl. Now me getting emotional thinking about my week. We
Oof. And it's
just
only
hit
Monday.
record. We just hit record, bro. We just hit record. We just got here. I no girl, but it was good. I think me getting emotional is just like God's grace is so good. And even though I
Mm.
complain and say this and that, but his grace is more than sufficient. So really good week. But how was your week, girly?
It was busy. It was a busy week, but it was rewarding. I got to spend a lot of time with friends. I was tired, exhausted,
Yes. Yes.
but we made it. So I'm happy.
Mm,
Monday's here, and the rest of the week is going to be just a lot of prep, a lot of prep for the next few days, and I'm excited. I'm excited. I think it's gonna
no.
be just another journey to come with
Mm.
just life and upcoming trips and yeah, it's been good. I'm excited. God's good. God's
Yes.
good.
Oh yeah, and by the way, Miss Girl is going on a missions trip soon. So exciting.
I'm so nervous. So if listening to this, well, when you guys listen to this, I'll be like
On the plane.
settling in to DR.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she'll be there.
Yes.
She'll be landed.
Yes, I'll be there. So pray for me. Pray for everybody. Pray for the whole entire place. Pray for all the people we're gonna encounter. It's
Yes.
a lot of it's a youth centered trip, youth and young adults. So I'm excited and I can't wait to go on our first mission trip together and just experience those things. I think it's so crazy. But I'm excited. God is good.
Yes. I love that. Um literally oh yeah, by the way, Friday, Evie was running on like 3 hours of sleep. And we still went to
Oh,
worship night.
oh yes. So we did
I
go to
was
worship night, y'all. We made
and
it.
amazing. Such a good night. And then we went to Chick-fil-A and they were hitting on us and they gave us 30.
I was gonna say we need to
30.
mention this in the podcast. I literally forgot about it. I ordered one chicken sandwich, a
Yeah.
number two. I don't even know the number.
Mhm.
I looked at the same thing, a spicy chicken sandwich deluxe with fries. He gave me
Yeah.
two sauces. I asked for some more. He gave me 14 extra
In a
sauces in a
bag.
separate bag, a
Yeah.
plastic bag.
And he was so
So
like he literally wanted you. Like he literally wanted your number.
he
Like
literally wanted me to go back and ask him why so that he can get my number.
yes. I'm dead. Literally. Oh, and then
Craziness.
the order guy, Christian.
His name
Christian.
was Christian. Shout out to Christian.
Yeah.
I know I was creeping Christian out because my window kept making some ring noises. And I was like,
Oh my
why
gosh.
is he
Stop.
doing this? I was already embarrassed. And then there comes this other guy with all the sauces. I just had to get out of there. Shout out to that Chick-fil-A in Lake
Wait.
Nona, somewhere
Yeah.
that we were.
We were in Lake Nona, but yeah, that was so fun. Dang. But here we are today, recording our eighth episode, talking about things. It's crazy. We've had so much confirmation about this topic recently, and it's something that we both uh, absolutely love and is necessary to talk about. But today we're talking about boundaries.
Dun
Um,
dun dun.
I know. Ooh.
Spicy topic.
There's a chill in the room now. But
Ooh,
boundaries, everything boundaries. It's a hard topic. Just because it's
it
not
is.
something that is openly like said, and it is
Right.
very, very, very hard to set. But Evie, what are boundaries to you? How would you describe the word boundaries?
I would describe it as not a limit, because it is kind of a limiting of
Mm-hmm.
whether it is a situation or a circumstance that you're in with a group of people. It's kind of just like that inner, I want to say, I don't know, it's the way to this, I think about it in my head is like I'm setting something in place for
Mm-hmm.
myself that is only that I know about, but something that the other person or other party should know about. And it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like a
Yeah.
rule that may be at first unspoken, but should be vocalized. I have
Yes.
no other way to describe it other than that. To me, it's like it's healthy.
Right.
But it can, if not properly communicated, it could be something that is limiting, scary, terrifying. The reason that we don't want to talk about it, it's
Right.
spicy. It's a
Yeah, it
spicy
is.
topic. But for me, it's that it's a rule that is put in place to better yourself and maybe to just better those around you. How would you describe boundaries and what is it to you?
I would say something like you said, like it should be vocalized, but a lot of times it isn't. It's something that it's almost like a kind of respect that it does depend per person. There's some boundaries that are, just given, and some boundaries that you do have to vocalize because they're not the same for
Right.
everybody. But they are
Hmm.
just as important. Um, yeah, like a certain, I guess, unspoken and spoken respect and parameter that's put in place that is necessary for everyone because everyone has their own experiences and everyone comes from different backgrounds. That it is important to respect each other and the
Right.
lines that are put in place. So yeah, it's a hard topic.
It is. It's hard to
uh,
describe it. I didn't think that it was going to be hard to describe it until I started talking. I was like, I don't know how
yeah,
to describe this.
like to vocalize it, yeah, because it's very unspoken. It's more like it's something that is just kind of like sometimes
Done.
given, sometimes yeah, done. Exactly. It's done. But yeah.
It's crazy. One
Yeah.
thing that I was thinking about too was just, I know you mentioned like parameters and we don't talk about that stuff. And I think sometimes we want to, but like we
Hmm.
said, like we're nervous to talk about the, first of all, we're nervous to talk about the topic. It's not
Right.
an easy topic. But it, like Emily said, it has been coming up a lot. Like it has
Yes.
been in my friend circle, been talking about like who sets boundaries with who, what are the boundaries that we're setting in
Hmm.
our friend group. These are important conversations to have.
Yeah.
Um, do you think that you're good at setting boundaries yourself?
Okay,
Or is
guys, that's
it
it. That's the
tricky?
podcast. That's it. We're done.
Right. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for joining. That was it. Dang. Okay, so when we always put in our descriptions, just let's hold hands and jump in it together. Hold my hand.
Mm,
This is where we hold each other's hands and jump in it. Yes, grab it, grab
mm.
my hand.
Grab your hand, clench your fist like you're holding someone's hand right now,
Yes,
and hold your hands right now.
yes. I know. If you're driving right now, clench the wheel like it's someone's hand. Um,
Yes. Just be there for us.
okay.
Thank you.
Yes, please. I think I I'm good at defending other people's boundaries. I'm not good at
Hmm.
setting my own.
Well,
I
yeah.
think that I am such like a fearless person when it comes to the people around me. Like I already know their boundaries. Like I already know like if anyone tries to come in between, like I am ready to throw down. For me, I need help.
Mm,
Just because I hate to admit it, but if you can't accept it, you can't change it. I am a people pleaser. Despite my efforts, I am a people pleaser, and it does not do me good when it comes
yeah,
to
yeah.
putting my foot down and
Hmm.
actually which there are when it comes down to it, I will eventually.
Right.
But it does
Of
take a
course.
bit of like stop making excuses for people. That's not okay. Like a little like pep talks.
Yes.
Um, But yeah, I guess it's a little here and there. But what about you? Is it easy for you? Is it harder?
No, girl, it is not easy. I'm just like you. We're holding
Yeah,
hands right now.
just like
Um,
me. We're just like you.
oh my
It's
God,
something
Prince on the Popper.
anyone can see. I sang that
I
song wrong,
love.
but
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not
yeah,
even the
that's
same
not the
word.
lyrics. Don't worry about it.
We love a Barb, and all in all, a Barbie girl. Let's
Yeah.
watch all the Barbie movies.
Oh yeah.
Um,
July
but
21st.
no, what?
Free promo.
Right, we're going to the Barbie movie. We're bringing it back to. Do you remember that? Yeah, we're gonna go watch that.
Yeah.
But just like Emily said, you are so fearless when it comes to other people because I experienced it with you not so long ago.
Oh yeah.
Emily will throw down for any
Oh.
to anyone and anyone for those that she loves. And she is like, again, a girl's girl. So I've seen
Oh,
that in effect. I've seen
I
that
love you.
in real life. I've seen that I brag about it. I'm like, that girl got my back,
Aw.
like for real. And it's a good feeling, but it's something that I want you to experience for yourself. Like, and like, just like you said, it's hard to
Mhm.
set limits and you have to kind of like train yourself
Yes.
and be like,
Mhm.
oh, I need to do this right now because I can't let the same person take advantage of me.
Right.
Like I'm not letting that happen to my friends, so I'm gonna let it happen for myself.
Right.
Um, I don't think honestly I'm getting better at setting boundaries
Mhm.
because like you said, we're people pleasers. You ask me to do something, I'm gonna do it. You
Right.
want to go out, we're going out. Like you want to go hang out, like, and I have homework and I have stuff to do and I have service and I have this. I'm gonna make time for you. But when
Mhm.
it's in return, are we receiving what we're putting down? Like, is it
Yeah.
being reciprocated?
Oh.
And it's okay for a little bit, but are we setting boundaries to be like, okay, let's respect each other's time,
Yeah.
uh, or whatever the situation is? I think it is hard. It is hard to set boundaries. I'm not gonna say I'm good at it. I'm not. I think I'm
Yeah.
getting better,
Mhm.
because people pleasing is real, and it's kind of like when you train a dog to do something, like to sit,
Right.
sit, 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 and then
Mhm.
you know how to sit for so long, and then it's time to run, and you don't only know how to sit, or time to roll over, and you don't know how to sit. Like we're not
Right.
trained to kind of speak up. We're kind of
Yeah.
trained, and I think that's due with, I'm gonna get a little bit deeper, but into
Yeah.
our
Come on.
culture of like
Mhm.
Hispanic, like
Come on.
children and
Say
respect,
it.
like don't talk back. You're being disrespectful and rude.
Mm.
But I can't set a boundary and say, hey, I don't like to be yelled at, or hey, that's not what like something like that. Not to get into
Yeah.
full details, but that's
No,
just an
but
example.
come on. Like, no,
Yeah,
and
I know.
exactly. No, and
It's like a
coming,
boundary that has to be set and it's not talked about.
yes. And that's so, you hit it on the nail. And honestly, that's like a whole conversation. Write that down, write that down. That's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
But like that, like it is something enrooted in our culture, especially, children and women. I saw I think it was a reel like a couple months ago, and I think I told you this, and it completely
Mm.
changed my perspective. And it was like, oh, like Hispanic daughters, like overthinking any interaction they have with a man because we weren't allowed to talk about boys as when we were
Wow.
younger. And when I
It's so
heard that,
true.
oh my gosh, I literally screamed. Like I was like, are you like serious? Because it's like that's so true. Like we never taught
Yeah,
to, set those lines where it's like it's okay to talk to people or, boys or whatever. There is lines that can be put. Instead, it was just a
right.
complete no. And so now that we're growing
Exactly.
older, it's like, where's the line? There, it was never
Oof.
said. And so, but that's
Yeah,
that's a whole conversation because that goes into
that
like
is a whole thing.
relationships, that goes into everything because it is.
Yeah,
Like you said, if someone's only taught how to like sit when it comes time to do other things, they're not gonna know. Um,
right.
that's such a good take, girl. What the heck? Okay, qué bueno
I
estás
don't know.
muy
That was in
bien.
the notes, pero
Yeah, come on. That's so good. No, but and I think it's something that it it's so difficult, and
yeah,
it only gets easier if it's something said out loud and like talked about. If it's just pushed under the rug,
exactly.
it gets worse. It does. But honestly, I think that there's so much that we need to learn on and kind of get back to, but I'd say, girl, not my phone. I'm so sorry.
No,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Let me get that. But anyways,
no, you're so good.
um, why do you think setting boundaries are so difficult? Especially when it comes to like, setting boundaries with people that we like or we want to impress or that are important to us, and how have their reactions affected, you setting those boundaries?
I think it depends on the person and again what we're taught because if it's, let's say, for an example, as un ejemplo, like if I
Mm-hmm.
am, I don't know, if I am trying to impress someone, for an example, this isn't real, okay? If I'm trying to express someone, but I don't have self respect, I'm gonna just allow any type of treatment, and that is not okay.
Come
These are
on.
things, again, that
Yeah.
are not talked about. And
Right.
so when situations unfortunately happen to people where there is disrespect in relationships, whether that be, friendships or boyfriends or girlfriends, whatever it is, um, there's no line. And I
Mm.
think that it's so hard because there is no line. And that's
Mm.
why boundaries are lines. Like
Yeah.
but they shouldn't be like I was reading earlier, reading to you, Emily, like there shouldn't be lines to disconnect because we should always be in community, like I was saying with that post I was reading. But it is something that even if there are lines, that there is still ways for us to still fulfill whatever it is the goal is. Like if you have a friendship and you're making a new friendship, for an example, you're not going to go and tell that new friend your whole life trauma. Like you
Right.
guys haven't got there yet. You just
Exactly.
learned their name and
Exactly.
their favorite color. Take it easy. So there's like a line that you have to draw, and I think sometimes again it's so difficult because we don't have lines. We
Right.
see someone and we want to vent, or we want to just they think they know everything. In reality, you never know people's intentions, and that's
Right.
why boundaries are so important. And those reactions from people can be either taken advantage of. People can, disregard your boundaries and not care, and those are the people that you want to steer away from. But there's people that obviously will respect you, like you mentioned. It's a thing of more. It's more of a thing for respect. It's
Mm.
like, as an example, another example, like a culture. Like you're not gonna go to, for example, Israel and wear whatever the heck you want when
Right.
they have boundaries and they have
Exactly.
certain standards as how we should dress or how you should present yourself in a way that's not
Exactly.
disrespectful, and that is a line. Um,
Mm.
and again, like your reaction can be different, but you have to remember where you are. It's kind of like
Mm.
a reality check. Like where are
Yeah.
you when the boundaries are put in place mentally? Like what's the
Exactly.
picture looking like? And not letting people's reactions, if they're bad, like take it with a grain of salt, and you know who to kind of set those boundaries with, and it be a silent boundary where at this
Right.
point you have to draw the line and kind of just love from afar, I would say.
Right. No, that's good.
But for you, why do you think it is hard, and how have those reactions like affected your decision to set those boundaries?
I think like it does relate back to what you were saying. Like you can't, it can't be the same with everybody. And that relates
Right.
back to sacrifice too. Like,
Yes.
um, not everything is bad, but not everything is for this person or for this season. Um,
Right.
and that also is like in an internship I'm doing. Shout out to the shout out to the JY
Yes. Shout
interns.
out to internships.
Um,
Whoa.
I
I
I know. I
love them.
We were learning recently some just like phrases to like have in our life to just keep in mind. One of them is um disagreement doesn't mean it's a sin.
Mm,
And That's so true because it does relate
Yeah,
back to like everyone's gonna think differently. Everyone's gonna have their own
right.
parameters and their own lines. Um, and it doesn't mean it's a sin. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It means that they have in that season in their life they need more space or less space. And it is
Yeah.
completely up to that person. But I think for me, um, what gets me is that like I really desperately like not that I need people to like me, but I need people to acknowledge my existence. And it's something
Okay.
that
Yes.
I talked about a lot during therapy of like
Mm-hmm.
I am so like wrapped up in perception that I don't even care. Like I if people think like I'm a bad person, like or a good person, I don't really care. I just need people to know that I exist. And it is a
Oh
vice
yeah.
that I have over the years healed a lot from. But it is still there.
Right.
Like I don't want people to think less of me. Like and
Mm-hmm.
that comes back a lot, like for me personally. Um a lot with the um like being a pastor's daughter and growing up in
Yeah.
church. um I had a lot of that, and there's like people. I remember the first time in like my parents' first church when one of the girls like wore a crop top, and it wasn't even like a big crop top, it was like just a little tiny little slit,
Yeah.
um in to like I don't know, like a Bible study. And I was like, wow, like I want that. And so
Mm.
I remember like I went like shopping, or like I started looking clothes for like it was around my birthday too. Like I got all my birthday money. I was looking fly. I was like,
Right.
I want a whole new closet. And
$20 in
I
her
was like,
pocket.
yeah, for real. It was only $20 or something like that. But I was like, I remember like pulling off some shirts off the rack, and my mom was like, no. And like I was so upset because I was like, like, oh, but like it's not fair. Like, but my boundaries were very different from hers because my calling was very different from
Exactly.
hers. Um,
Yes.
and it is, and that doesn't mean she's any less than me, but it's
Exactly.
that things where you need to have your own personal, and that goes back to comparison and
Right.
coming back to what our constant topic. But I think it is because uh we want to be uh a certain character, like a certain person. We want to portray a certain,
Yeah.
vibe or
Image.
persona, image, exactly. And so I think setting boundaries that are too tight makes us seem that we're a certain category of a person. Or like they're just church people, or there's just, that was like pastor's daughter or
Right.
whatever.
Exactly.
But it isn't. I think it goes back to just that. It's not the season for that. And I think people's reactions have definitely like people leaving too. Like me being like, hey,
Yeah.
I can't do that, or I can't listen to that, or I can't watch that. That has made people leave my life. Um, I can't
Mm.
believe like that. I can't see the world like that.
Yes.
That
Wow.
has made people, leave my life, and definitely it has made it more difficult because I keep extending okay, let me jump the line just a little bit, and I keep moving the
Oh,
lines more
yeah.
and more,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm drowning because now I don't know where I
Wow.
am. And when it relates
Exactly.
back to, we're talking about in prepping this, like oceans, like
Yes.
the boundaries that, God has set, they're so perfect. And when we keep pushing that, exactly like that, I think when we talk about Jesus and Peter walking on the water, it was
All
okay,
right.
for Peter to walk on water because of his faith. When his faith failed,
Exactly.
he failed and he was drowning. It's
Exactly.
because those, boundaries that we push are not what God wants us to have. Like, we cannot keep pushing our own personal boundaries outside of God's plans because then we're just walking by
Exactly.
ourselves.
Yes.
We're drowning by ourselves. We are able to
Keep
walk on
preaching.
water because God has set those boundaries up.
Come
And it's
on.
not the
Yeah.
same for everybody. It's not the same. It can't be
Mm-hmm.
the same for everybody. So because Miss Girl over here is, doing this and doing that and still getting blessed, it doesn't mean that she's any more or less in favor with God. It's because those boundaries are what God has set for her. And the same way that
Yeah.
some things that I can do, she can't do. And it's because those boundaries that
Exactly.
God set are very different. But yeah, it's like it's a it's a hit or
I
miss
was tired, but that's so
no, yeah,
true.
it depends on
That's so good what you just said about like the calling.
Mhm.
It doesn't determine because other people's boundaries are so different, but then like I love what you said when you said sometimes because people don't respect our boundaries or they don't understand our boundaries, we are creating room for things that are
Yeah,
not in line with what we're supposed to walk into. Not that
right,
it's not in line, but it doesn't serve us a purpose. But
right,
we're opening our line to fulfill somebody else's purpose.
right.
And I think that's where it kind of like it goes into identity and all these things
Yes,
that God has
it's
been
all
speaking about.
connected.
Like it's all connected. Like, are you doing that to please God or to please yourself or to please a person?
Right,
And why would you rather please a person more than yourself and your
right,
beliefs? When you're over our overall faith, obviously, like we can be healed from our friend's faith, right? But we also need to be, understanding that our lives are just going to be different in
right,
general, in every setting, because of
right.
whether it's our faith or religion or your job or your setting or
Yeah.
your background, like just so many things. So I think that was super good. He was
Yeah.
preaching. She was preaching.
Ah.
No, but one of the other questions that we just had was just, is it different for you specifically just setting boundaries with your friends compared to your family? Obviously, like it's a big deal.
Oh,
I want to know what you think about that. Like, is it which one do you like better? Like, which one would you rather not deal
uh,
with?
okay. Good night, guys. Nice talking to you.
See you
Okay.
next week.
Love you. Bye. Thank you guys so much for watching. No, but I, oh my gosh, I definitely think that obviously setting boundaries with my friends is a lot easier because I have this very bad habit of like that I quote Taylor Swift, you gotta leave before you get left. And that's,
Love
I don't
you.
know, it's been a sadly a big motto for a lot of my relationships
Mhm.
of kind of like, if you don't like this, then I'm gone. And I kind of emotionally detach, um,
Wow.
which is not healthy. But with my family, setting those boundaries of like, okay, like this is what I need in this season right now, and this is what I
Right.
need from you in this season is incredibly difficult. Um,
Yeah.
and if I'm being completely honest, with all love with my family, um, I think the thing that we need, and we continue to work on in this, season that we're in as a family, is definitely communication and healthy
Yeah.
communication.
Hmm.
Um, because it is hard, especially with family. It's like exactly that. If you didn't grow up learning how to communicate and learning how to set healthy boundaries, it's so hard when you're older
It
because
is.
you never learn how to do that. And like you said, and it's Hispanic households really in general. It's
Yeah.
in our culture to be very like respect your elders, like don't question it, like don't talk
Exactly.
back, like take orders. Um, and if you don't, that's disrespect. And I think something that I learned a while back is that like some people see respect as equality, and some people see respect as royalty, and
Hmm.
almost like a horizon and a almost like looking upwards kind of thing. Um, and it's hard when people see respect and respecting boundaries as something that comes from up instead of something that comes from the side, like equal
Yeah.
on the same plane. Um,
Exactly.
so definitely, when I think of like setting boundaries with my friends, um, things like that, like topics to talk about, things to do, things that like we shouldn't,
Yeah.
be seeing or
Engage.
being around, like engaging in,
Yeah.
exactly like that boundaries. It is a bit more like both of them are difficult, I will say. Just because with your
Yeah.
friends you're a little more lenient, like oh, like it's okay, like it's whatever,
Right.
whatever. Um, but I think that's why it's so important to have like-minded people around you, um just because, like, exactly that, they'll respect your bound more than anything. You don't need people that think like you exactly, but you need people that respect your boundaries and respect that your mentality and your season is not wrong. It's how you're going to
Right.
grow. And just the same as
Exactly.
them, they're in a different season, they're in a different mentality, but you still need to respect each other's boundaries. um and I think that's so important. um so yeah, I guess it's a hit or miss with, family. But what about you? Is it harder with your family? Is it easier? Like, what is the vibe, girl?
So I think I'm definitely around my family a lot,
Hmm.
but like you said, I think communication is a big thing that is lacking in everything, like
Yeah.
friendships, households, every situation, which is something that I also want to work on, like with my siblings and just my friendships, like making sure we're vocal
Yeah.
about what's okay and what's not okay. Um, I think when it comes to friendships, right now I'm in a season where I kind of have my good four, my good
Hmm.
four friends that are like the mains. Like those are the
Yeah.
ones that are they know all the tea from top to bottom. Like they know the
Yeah.
family roots and the history.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to really pray and be careful only because which is it's great to have people that are understand you, but they also you also want to make sure that people that you have in your circle or at your table, like shout out to Until Women, likes to mention,
Yes.
are not taking advantage of you,
Right.
and pressing your boundaries. But something that I love that my friend told was saying to our friend group this
Hmm.
weekend, which I shared with you yesterday,
Hmm.
she was saying, I love a person so much that I don't want to see them when they're out of character. And that is how I
Hmm.
know that I am taking care of them. Like
That's
that,
good.
that basically that she was going to be, she could recognize when each one of us were at a point where we weren't ourselves
Yeah.
and we were crossing our own boundaries.
That's
And
good.
so I think it's important to, like you said, have people in your circle that don't just think like you, but that they challenge you and
Right.
they also want to, you know, respect your boundaries in a way or respect your beliefs in a way that if you are out of line, if you are out of character, they're there to not just, be like, oh, it's okay, girl, but hey, let's talk about this because I know that you crossed your personal boundary.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's easier with my friends because we have that open communication.
That's good. Yeah.
Um, and so I've seen that now recently. I can't say it's always been there, but I think we're getting a lot more comfortable. And I think I've been a lot more vocal. Even situations like, hey, let's talk about this situation where we were kind of off to each other. Like, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
And thankfully, those situations have gone great. It's because we communicated.
Right.
With family, I think it is hard, like you mentioned, because of the, oh, well, I'm older and you're younger. Or
Yeah.
I'm your parent
Mm-mm.
and that's how it is.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, no, but I'm an adult. Like, and
Yeah.
no, but I live here too. And
Right.
so it's not to be disrespectful. I'm saying this all out of love, but it is harder with family just because we love harder. I
Right.
think we love harder with family, so it hurts to set boundaries too.
And I
Because
think
you want to
that's
be the one that's always there too.
right. No, and that's like, it is hard because you want to be seen as like a person, and I think that, what I was
Yeah,
like saying earlier, like, it for me, like, I just want to be known, like I want to be remembered.
right.
um and I went through a whole phase earlier this year, and my Snapchat private story knows all about it. But I
Right.
was like, I went through a whole thing where I was like, I just need to be known. Like, I am like,
Yeah.
I was so like, it was something that like entered like my soul and my mind, where like it captured my mind like 24/7, where it was like, I just want to make it big. Like, whatever I do, like I
Right.
want to be known. I want to like have a place set. And I was pushing my own beliefs to do that. I was,
Mm.
not saying all the best Christ-like words, and I wasn't, you
Right.
know, in the right mentality. I wasn't seeking God. I was seeking power. I was seeking my own pride. Um, and it is that, like, sometimes we want to be different people, so we push for different boundaries, and that's not okay. And I think
Right.
it's something that we all struggle with constantly, because we think that the boundaries that are set in place for who we want to be is what we decide, when it's not. God has decided all that
Yeah.
beforehand. I was really reading, and I'm in a small group now, and we're talking about prayer, and we're talking about how we pray a lot for God's will, but we think it's something that we haven't seen before. But in reality, it's all been written down. God has told us
Exactly.
this for centuries. And that's why when we sing Do It Again, we're not talking about something that is like so out of character. Like, it is something that
Exactly.
has been written for years. He's been
Already.
doing this not just for what you're seeing. He's do it again for what I don't see. Do it again for the things that
Exactly.
have happened like centuries ago. And I think that's what, we're saying now is like, I went a whole rant, but it's a
No,
whole
that's
thing, but
perfect.
it's a whole, like, it does relate back to, like, God already said that. God already said where
Yeah.
you're supposed to be. And it's
Right.
hard when we see all these people that we can be, all these, the image that we want to portray. Um, but it needs to be set, and it needs to be protected. Like, you need to feel protective over your boundaries. And it sucks because you don't want to
Yes.
lose friends. You don't want to be like, hey, like, I can't do that. Or like, you need to give me room. Like, you need to give me time. Like, doing that, oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I had to I had to text one of my friends the other day, and it was so hard. It was like someone that I've known for like the past couple of years, like an online friend or whatever. But I was like, hey, like, I am doing a lot, like, in time, like in my real life, I guess, and like I just need
Right.
time away. And it was so hard because this is someone that like I found through COVID,
Oh wow.
and we were just like playing online games, just hanging out,
Yeah.
whatever. And it's hard now because it's like, someone that was there in some of like my hardest moments. But I have to say, like,
Yeah.
my boundaries change because I
Wow.
change. And
Oof.
it's not because I decided that, like, God decided that. I can't be pushing that
Exactly.
and then have myself drown because I try to push the boundaries that were not meant for me. Like,
Exactly.
and so, girl, it's a whole
That is
thing. It's a whole
so. It
thing.
is so good.
But you
Um.
know, it's difficult. But um,
You just said something that I wanted to tag.
mhm.
I love that you mentioned the song, like when you said "Do It Again," because like
Yeah,
that song is fire. Number one, shout out to Elevation.
yes, love it.
Um, but it's like God. You said like God already set boundaries. Like those are
Right.
all guidelines. Those are all things He's already done.
Yeah,
Um, we know our boundaries low key. I feel like we
yeah,
all and deep inside know. We
yeah.
just are choosing to ignore them.
Right.
Like we know what we're supposed to be doing, what we're not supposed to be doing. The discernment
Hmm.
kicks in right on time.
Yes, I know.
Every time.
Yes.
Like every time. But I remember yesterday when we were prepping for this, I looked up what are boundaries or what are examples of boundaries.
Mhm.
And literally
Come on.
National Geographic. We're giving you history right now. Like if
Yes,
you're in school, take
geography.
some
Come on.
notes.
Yes.
Period. And it came up like as a suggested question. What are three examples of natural boundaries? And I found it so prophetic because I was like, wow, I didn't think about this. We always talk about it in school. Like, you know how we talk about like divergent, convergent, like all that
Yes.
stuff? So basically, the three examples of natural boundaries, it says, which it's not, it's more than three, it's four, but I guess you can
Mhm.
count water as one. So it's
Yeah.
rivers, mountain ranges, oceans, and deserts. And so I was like,
Mm.
wow. So I screenshotted that. I sent it to my friend. I was like, can you take a look at this? Because we always compare seasons in our lives, right? We
Yeah.
always say, oh, I'm in a desert season. Like I'm in
Mhm.
isolation right now. That requires a boundary.
Come
You have
on.
to shut off a lot of stuff. Like you have to turn down the world, maybe take a social media break,
Yeah.
limit your music, maybe if that's what God's telling you to do. Limit who you're putting your ear to, like what you're
Mhm.
who you're lending your ear to or what you're watching. And I
Right.
remember talking to someone, they know who they are, shout out. And I said, oh, I think I'm in my isolation season. And they're like, oh my God, I was so excited. I was like, I'm not. Like, I
Ah!
am not. Because I knew that I had to set boundaries that I wasn't comfortable setting.
Right.
Because again, people pleasing, people person, being
Right.
outgoing. When you're in the river, in the ocean, and you're drowning, like,
Mhm.
are you going to set a boundary? Maybe I'm not supposed to go to the deep end. Maybe I'm meant to be in the shallow for just a little bit before I
Right.
dive into something and burn out. Because
Yes.
that's real.
That's
Like,
good.
or maybe I'm supposed to be in the deep end and right now I'm in the shallow and I'm too scared.
Mhm.
Like, expand your boundary a little bit. Like, don't limit yourself too much. The mountain range. I remember 2 years ago, it was like a sermon about the mountaintop,
Yeah.
summer and new birth. Like, shout out.
I
On that
love
preacher.
that.
But it was just like, everybody wants to be at the mountaintop, but you don't realize how hard it is to breathe on the top of the
Yeah.
mountain. Like your
Wow.
air, your support. I remember last month we went to Colombia. We went to La Piedra Peñol, shout out. It's 700
Mhm.
steps, like a whole rock with 700
Oh my
stairs.
gosh.
And you're going up, 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 and the stairs are steep, and it's hard to breathe. First of
Oh
all,
my
altitude
gosh.
change, like it's steep, it's hard.
Yeah.
Okay, it's hard. And those are just like, everything is going to be different. Like there's boundaries, there's things put in place. There's, when you do certain things, you go on a ride, there's a limit, you know.
Right.
There's a limit as, what you can have, what you can't have. When you go places, what you can have, what you can't have. And all these things, but it was so surprising to me and so like mind-blowing that all these things that we compare our lives to, all these seasons, like they
Mm.
all require boundaries. Like they all
Right.
have boundaries in within them, whether that be
Right.
the sandbar in the beach, whether that be, that little part of the mountain that sticks out so you can climb
Right.
up it, or I don't know, whatever, or the desert, like the weather, the heat, like
Come
just
on.
everything. And it kind of just, I don't know. It was so crazy, and
No,
I just wanted
that's
to
so
share that.
good. That's so good because it's that like even that like a boundary of separation, but a boundary of unity. Sometimes like
Yes,
God is like you cannot be alone. Like you got to be
right,
surrounded. And sometimes he's going to say like no, like you got to be by yourself. And
exactly.
again, it's not going to make sense, but it's so you can walk on water. And I think
Right.
that's like so like it's hitting me like it's giving me like spanking me like slapping right now because it's like oh my gosh like sometimes like we want control in our boundaries and it really has been set
Yeah,
up for us because that's
right.
why we feel like we're drowning when like we feel like we're like overloaded or we're like drowning. It could be because we're trying to make our own boundaries or push the boundaries that are already set for us, and we need to go back, reassess, and let God take control. And let it. Oh, there's
Mm.
the movie The Shack. I don't know if you. I read the book.
Yes. Oh
Yes,
my gosh.
with that
That was
part when he
crazy.
says that's so old, that's crazy. We that's so old. But the part when Jesus says like, "Isn't it better when we do it together?" Like when he
Wow.
tries to walk
Yeah.
on the water and he's not with Jesus. Like,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it better when we do it together?
Wow.
So don't be afraid of boundaries because the truth is, when you do it with God, there's nothing you can't do. So and
Amen.
that's it. But I just wanted to ask, just to kind of coming to a close, what advice would you give to people who are struggling to set boundaries or are scared or feel like they're being too harsh or they're going to be too mean to do it? Like, what's your advice?
My advice would be honestly evaluate.
Mm-hmm.
Like evaluate the people in your life, evaluate the situation. Obviously don't go into it super harshly. Just
Yeah.
personal lesson.
Yeah.
But just remember that again, I think I always say this because it's so true. The people that are meant to be in your life are not going to run or shouldn't run if you were to set boundaries because of the season that you're
Right.
in. They should be willing to understand. And if they're your friends, they are going to take what you say and really just own that and
Right.
support you. Even
Right.
if that's setting a boundary with them, there should still be support. So honestly, my advice would just be that, like, take time, evaluate, and if you are scared, pray about it
Right.
and take it up with God and let him know that, I'm nervous, but again, just take it easy. And honestly, it's easier said than done. But those conversations need to be had.
Right.
If not, it's going to continue. So that would be my advice. What would be your advice to anyone struggling to create that boundary or just in that process
Honestly,
right now?
like I think exactly like what we've been, repeating. Um, what you said, like the people that are supposed to be in your life are not going to run from boundaries. They're going to support them. They're going to make sure you follow
Yeah,
them. They're going to,
exactly. Keep
they're
you
going to be there
accountable.
to exactly accountability. And I also think like there's a verse in Psalms where David's talking about, just like Psalms, like the whole entire book of Psalms praising God.
Right.
And he says this phrase, and God has set the lines in perfect places. And I think
Mm,
that's like so true.
well,
Like what we keep repeating, like he's already set that in perfect positions. Like they're not meant to be moved. And though you might think
yeah.
like, oh, like Lord, but it's not bad, but it's not like it's like okay or whatever. Like God has already set that for you. And God will let you know if you need to set it with somebody else. Because that's the real
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
That's where it comes down to it. When you gotta have a conversation with somebody and be like, hey, like I even though we did this, I can't do this anymore. God is gonna let that perfect time, place, and way that you're able to set those boundaries for His will, because it is all for His will. That's just point blank.
Exactly.
Period. Um, but yeah, don't be scared. Know that God is always going to lead you, and it is better when we do it with Him. Um,
Amen.
but yeah, this was so
Oh,
good. Like this
yes,
definitely preached
yes.
to me. I was like, because I've
No,
been
it's
I've been
perfect.
stressing. I've been stressing about like a few things with family and friends, but I think it is important that we realize that God will always set a space for that. Um, and
Amen.
yeah, just
Yeah,
trust, pray,
for
and
sure.
know. So, but yeah,
I'm
oh
so
my
happy that we got to
gosh,
talk about this. I think it's just been so
yes,
heavy, like we said, and uh, it's good. It's good to talk about this stuff.
yes,
Honestly, I
breathe.
encourage somebody have the conversation. I think I need to have the
Right,
conversation, and
right, yeah,
it's a hard conversation, but
yeah.
it's that prayer that no one likes to pray of. God, if they're not meant to be in my life, remove
I
them. And I
know.
promise you, He will put all,
I
He will
know.
part the
Don't give it.
sea. He will
No,
do what He
no,
gotta do.
no. I know. Don't
Dangerous
complain then.
prayers.
I know. That
Right.
is. That is. And when you ask, he's going to do. So don't worry. Don't be surprised
Right.
when, you got a lot of people leaving. But that is for a reason. And it is also for
Yeah,
a
for sure.
season. People make comebacks and people grow. People,
Exactly. Oof, they do make
So
comebacks. Come on.
I know. Back again.
I
Once
love
they
that.
go. Yeah, I know. But we love you guys so much. And if you learn anything from this, just know that um, we're doing this together. And not to like take up too much time, but I think one thing that I'm so passionate about with this podcast is that I get to have conversations with people like in my life that it starts here. Like people are like,
Yes.
"Oh, like I heard you talk about this on the podcast. Let's talk about it." And I'm like, "Wow, like God
Wow.
is really inviting
You listen.
conversations." Yeah,
Amen.
no, but
He's
this is
building
about
community within ours.
yes,
That's
yes.
amazing.
So I thank you guys so much, and don't be afraid. Like this is just the first step. If you need to like send a clip of this to somebody and be a little hint hint, let's talk about this, do it. Like
Tag
use
them.
it. I know, tag them, tag them. Don't be afraid.
At you.
Yes, at this person. Come on. But I love you guys. We love all the
Yes, we love you so
support.
much.
Um
Make sure to follow us on
yes.
Instagram at
Yes.
YesUPod, TikTok at YesUPod, YouTube at YesUPodcast, Spotify. Add it to your library, rate the show, reply on what you liked about the
Uh,
episode,
and Apple
include everything on there.
Podcasts. I know some
And
people
Apple
need to
Podcasts. I
like
always forget
yeah,
that one.
I know some people are looking for it. It's at Yes You Pod, all one word, by the way. But
Yes, no
yeah,
space.
yes, no space. But we love you guys so much, and we'll see you guys in the next one. We love
Love
y'all.
y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.